Space. People have puzzled over its wonders since mankind first looked up to the heavens. As we discover more, so our wonder increases. So many different shapes and sizes, all seemingly held in their rightful places. But how and by what? Isaac Newton came up with the answer: gravity. This satisfied everyone and formed the foundation of our knowledge to the present day. But what if it got it wrong? One man has dreamed up an answer to the same physical questions and come up with the opposite idea. Gravity is not a pull, it's a push.
My name is Walter Wright, and I want to welcome you to Fairfield, California, the town I was born in. In the 1700s, Isaac Newton had a theory that gravity was a pull between all bodies in space. In 1968, I had a theory that gravity is a push between all bodies in space. As far as I know, Newton left no models behind to prove his point. I have nothing but models to prove my point. If you come into my museum, I will show you the models. For 42 years in the daytime, I worked for a railroad as a signalman. I also taught electronics in college for 30 years.
Walter's ideas are based on his study of magnetic forces. The Earth and all other bodies in space have their own magnetic fields. Walter has built several ingenious models to prove his point. Magnets not only attract, but also repel. And this theory goes right back to the beginning of time itself.
18 billion years ago, the universe was supposed to have been the Big Bang and blown apart. And I say it was blown apart by repelling forces. These are two huge horseshoe magnets, and you can see how they repel each other. Now, what I have here is the Big Bang. I have the red magnets on the outside, the yellow ones on the inside, and they're repelling. They're held in place right now physically by bolts. When I push this switch, the bolts will come down, and what you see happen, they do on their own energies. I'll push the switch on, and there you go. The universe is full of many, many bodies, and they don't seem to touch. They seem to be separating further and further apart. I use magnets to support my theory of a push. These magnets are going to repel the one in the center, and you can see how easy it is to stabilize the universe between pushes. Newton's laws, as I read them, his final law of gravitation, is a law of basic magnetism. He says closer, more attraction, everything pulls. And you can find out you can't even stabilize one body, let alone the entire universe. In 21 years, nobody's ever stabilized that magnet yet. This here is my interpretation of what holds you down to Earth by a squeeze. I don't talk much about Earth. My theory is between bodies in space, which is billions and billions of bodies. But I've shown the example here. This is the Earth, the steel ball. And you are the second steel ball at the South Pole with the penguins. The only energy in the entire model is this magnet. The red magnet is the sun. We pull the sun away, and you're held there by the sun. There's no energy in this ball or the transfer of energy from the sun that squeezes you down to Earth. When I pull the sun away further, it will drop off. You will fall off the Earth. The universe is separating in rings that are doubling. It's very symmetrical. This is a magnet and a steel bolt. I put this alongside of it, and it's 1/2. Very symmetrical. 1/3. 1/4. 1/5. 1/6. Nothing seems to want to touch in the universe, which supports my theory of a push between all bodies in space. This is my model to show you how you can be stabilized in space, how bodies can be stabilized in space. The air will push up the foam ball. In comes gravity from the sun, will push the ball back down again. And so the ball is stabilized between pushes. This model is the tide model. It shows you the high tide at apogee, the furthest point the moon is from the Earth, a higher tide at perigee, the closest point the moon is to the Earth, at the highest tide when the moon and the sun are in line with each other, a neap tide when the sun at left angles to the moon, a nep tide when the sun is at right angles to the moon, and also a high tide on the front side and the back side at the same time. It's the only model ever built, to my knowledge, that shows the tides of a world all done by pushes. Our Earth has a North Pole here and a South Pole here. Our moon has a North Pole here and a South Pole here. I've hung these magnets here for lines of force around the Earth. North Pole's up, South Pole's down. When I turn the switch on, you have a low tide. When I push the moon in, the lines of force will be pushed to the side, will squeeze the sides more, causing a low tide on the side at right and left angles to the moon, and give you a high tide facing the moon by a push. You saw the high tide light come on. This is my book called Gravity is a Push. In 1968, I started on this theory. And after 11 years, in 1979, I had my theory copyrighted, Gravity is a Push. And since that time, I've added more evidence to support my theory. Gravity is a push and not a pull.